Hey, what's going on guys? Coda here with another video about the High Elves and Total War 2. This time, I want to talk about a guy that I think we're all going to know very well in the near future. A lord that I believe is being designed, or already has been designed, to shake up the meta a bit. And it looks like there's reason to believe that's exactly what he's going to do. The big man himself is Tyrion, one of only 2 legendary lords available to the High Elves on launch day. In the livestream, I think the developer left some clues. I think game design studios, or film design, graphic design, any creative studio really, create new products with very specific granular detail in order to fulfill a role. To provide something new, for example, a new gameplay experience, or maybe a new way to handle the current gameplay experience. The little details they revealed about Tyrion might paint a much larger picture. For example, the mount options they decided to give the High Elf lords in this game were obviously thought through very carefully. The generic prince and princess have different dragons, for example. They have different horses, and some of the other characters have varying options that include things like eagles and chariots. It's especially relevant for the 2 legendary lords and their choices, or lack thereof. True to the lore, and with great implications on the gameplay, Tyrion will be earthbound on his legendary steed, Malhandir. To me, this says a lot. From what I gathered during the CA livestream, based on the way the developer kind of described him, Tyrion is being intentionally designed to, at the very least, provide a character experience and mechanic that is brand new to the Total Warhammer games in general, and at most, to challenge the current trends of characters in the multiplayer meta. Tyrion was described as being amongst the fastest lords in the game. The developer's words, which are always carefully chosen and a little bit awkward, were, quote, "Nothing can really run faster or escape from Tyrion." So, big deal, right? He's fast. But when you couple that with this fact, he can't fly, he has no monstrous mount options, then you get something a little bit more interesting. As of right now, in Total War 1, the fastest units in the game are flying units. Now, this is broad and imperfect. I don't have the stat breakdowns, and I'm absolutely sure that there are examples of ground units with faster base speed than flying ones, but when you consider speed not just as base speed, but the ability to move over units instead of around them for a flank or a rear charge, to move over terrain or not be slowed by it, to get into position or to get the charge or something like that, flying units have a huge speed advantage. And this is a lot more important when you're looking at it from a lord standpoint. If you stop and think about the lords you see in the current meta, or basically the multiplayer scene's choice of lords for competitive play in general, you'll start to notice some trends. Most of you probably already have. One of those trends, for a lot of factions, is taking a lord in the air for a vast majority of matchups. It's just too good to pass up. Empire takes a generic lord on a griffin, Wood Elves take the generic skirmish lord on the dragon, vampires take Manfred in the air. Greenskins and Chaos vary a bit more, but you do see them in the air quite often. That is, of course, when they aren't playing Bretonnia. Bretonnia is the elephant in the room, or the Pegasus in the room, really. Bretonnia is actually CA's first crack at countering flying lords, and as we all know, it was an extremely effective choice. Almost no one in the meta or on ladder takes a flying lord when facing Bretonnia, at least right now, June 2017. But there's a bit of a problem with that, because the tool that CA gave Bretonnia in order to counter flying units was a really good flying unit. So this does all have to do with Tyrion, and I'll get there, but it all centers around air superiority and flying units in Total War as a whole. As far as I know, and forgive me if I'm incorrect because I'm not that familiar with the other Total War titles, but the historical ones like Rome and Attila don't have flying characters or units. In fact, I think it's really important to consider all of the new crazy stuff that CA has had to adapt to their system when building the Warhammer titles. Magic and flying come to mind right off the bat, but I'm sure there are others as well. Like some of the monsters or monstrous units also require a lot of thinking on their part to adapt. In my opinion, because of this, I think that the power of flying units as a whole in this game sort of crept up on CA. I think it surprised them. I think that they did a very good job, and they did their due diligence, but some mechanics still manifest differently once the player base gets their hands on it. For example, if you ask the average CA developer if he or she knew what air cycle charging was, I bet the answer would be no more often than you think. That said, I have heard rumors from the other Total War videos or streams that CA does plan to implement some kind of timer that's meant to force flying units to remain on the ground for a certain amount of time, so maybe they are aware of it, but again, that's just a rumor and nothing official. Now, I don't think that flying units or lords are overpowered, not at all. But when you see about half of the factions default to it all the time, and then even more than that use it when they aren't playing one very specific matchup, you have to ask yourself what the deal is. And we would be lying to ourselves if we said that it was perfect or without problems. The whole air cycle charging as it is, as well as draw kiting in general, is buggy to say the least. This is where Tyrion comes in. This is why I think Tyrion will be special. I think Tyrion might be an answer. He's CA's attempt at a new answer at least. For example, I think if a flying lord tries to air cycle charge Tyrion, based on the way that they've described him, he's not going to be able to get back into the air. If you combine that with the fact that Tyrion was described as an insanely powerful melee lord as well as a duelist, I don't think he will be able to get cheesed out of a close endgame. Of course, for Total War 2, CA may very well fix the air cycle charge thing in general, and if that's the case, then Tyrion is even more of a threat to the usual airborne lords. If it hasn't come across already, I'm really excited for Tyrion and what he could mean for the game, because beyond being the fastest lord on the ground in the game, there was another little hint that CA dropped in the live stream that makes him even better. Tyrion is going to hit like a truck, and not just because his melee stats in war gear are going to be good. He's actually going to hit like a truck on the charge because of his mass. Based on how CA described it, a charge from Tyrion is going to feel a little bit more like a charge from Kholek. Mass is one of those things in Total War that's a little bit more obscure. It doesn't have a stat number or a value that we can see at least. But of course, we all know that it's very real and has a big impact on battles. Mass is the reason that Wind of Death absolutely destroys dwarf units, but it's a lot less effective to other infantry units. Actually, now that I think about it, I can't recall seeing a Winds of Death that wasn't against dwarves, but I know I've seen it. It's the reason Kholek and the Lord of Change for the Chaos Warriors can completely barrel through front lines to reach units in the back. It's also, at least I think, the reason that the Griffin, Old Faithful, can waddle its way out of pretty much any situation it gets itself in. Every unit, or at least unit model, has a mass value in the game that affects it in some way or another. So now, combine this with everything that I said before. Tyrion will be the size of a man on a horse, but will feel more like a monster. The developer on the livestream even said that the people in the studio were having such a good time with him, and that it's one of the things that's not likely to change before launch. And I can see how it would be fun. You have this single cav model, faster than anything else on the field, that basically slams through units as you ping-pong him around. Alright guys, to sum it all up, I think Tyrion was designed to shake it up. Between his revealed high speed, high mass, and great combat stats, CA may have created an Earthbound Lord who will not only perform better than some of the flyers, but who counters them as well. If he's too fast and too heavy, he won't let lords get back into the air, and he won't be able to be cycle charged. Think about all the common lords you see. The big ones like Durthu, Kholek, the infantry tanks like Morgur or Vlad, or the support lords like the Fae. Not a lot of combat powerhouses on horseback. That is, until we get the Prince of Ulthuan himself. Thanks a lot for listening guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, I'm Coda, and take care.